Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, July 15th, 2021, and we're here for a work session, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Frank, can you please take the lead?
I would love to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Frank. I have a few brief announcements. First, I want to wish everyone, hope that everyone's well. Vaccinations are available across Riverhead. You can now even pick which type of vaccination you want. We are not, if you choose not to get vaccinated, that is your personal choice. However, if you feel like you want one, they're readily available throughout Riverhead. And for our seniors, please contact our senior center. We'll set up an appointment for you. A reminder that today, and this is great news, is Alive at 25, the festival. It begins tonight at 5 o'clock, and it's going to, it'll consist of music and food and drinks and crafts and vendors and fireworks. The fireworks will take place at approximately 9:15 p.m. today. This is a rain date. Last week it got rained out. Today we have great weather. We encourage all our residents and vendors and businesses to engage in this. And I think it's going to be a very, very successful event.
Starts at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock and 9:15 is fireworks.
Nice.
Yes. And unfortunately, Patchogue wasn't able to do their Live at 25. We did do a lot of planning.
Yep.
With the councilman and the bid and the chamber, and there was a lot of planning way before the restrictions were lifted, in case restrictions were eventually lifted, and we were ahead of the game.
We were trying to think positive for the future.
Yes, under COVID,
Yes.
and we got it done. So thank you to all of those who participated in this and make it happen, and the bid, they're so dedicated, Christy and Steve. Next.
And I'm just going to jump in and say it's really exciting that we are having it. It did get postponed till today. We have the fireworks tonight, so I hope everybody comes down because it's always beautiful to watch the fireworks in Riverhead over by the river.
Okay. Next is Saturday, July 17th at 11:30. Myself and the entire town board will be officially unveiling the new street sign for Ziggy's Way, formerly known as Marcy Avenue. Ziggy Walensky passed away this past March, and he was a fixture in Polish Town and throughout Riverhead. So we're hoping that the community will come out and join us for this event, and I know that Ken has been working on obtaining the sign. Did you want to add a few words?
No, I think we got all the logistics worked out, so it'll be, an occasion where there's a bit of sorrow for the loss of Ziggy, but a proud moment to honor his legacy and what he did for the town. So it'd be a morning of mixed emotions, He was just a great man, great advocate for the town. We always said the Polish ambassador of Riverhead.
Yes, we did.
And so it'll be mixed emotions on Saturday, but it's a great way to honor him and his legacy, and especially because he was a postmaster, so to rename the street, after him, well, so all the mail carriers, it's the official change in the street name, so that's exciting too. It's another touch on his legacy as well, being the postmaster, so it'll be very.
11:30, you said?
Yes.
11:30?
I stopped down at Polish Hall earlier this week, and they were asking me what time as well. They were considering, because most of the time they're closed on Saturdays, but they were considering opening. So I'll let them know what the timing is, so maybe they will open and just have some kind of repast for whoever shows up.
Yeah, and I spoke to his wife, Wanda, yesterday, and again, while it's a somber moment for her, she's elated to know that his legacy is going to live on. And the locations are Pulaski Street and Marcy Avenue, and that's in front of the Polish Hall at 11:30.
Yes.
And hopefully the community will join us. All right, and moving forward to our first discussion item today, I'm going to ask the Police Chief Hege Malitza to please come forward and review the June crime report for us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Chief. And thank you for always getting the report to us ahead of time.
Oh, no problem. Everyone has it correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're seeing the same, June sees the same trend as we've seen for the last couple of months. Everything's recovering from COVID, so our numbers are way up compared to 2020 last year, and semi-up compared to 2019. So I'm looking at actually 3 sets of numbers there. And the biggest increase, as we've said before, is in the identity theft. That's way up compared to 2019 numbers. Larcenies are up, but on the whole, it's, as I say, following the same trend that we've seen.
What's the reasoning? Why do they think identity theft is up? It's just something that's a growing thing?
I would say probably maybe reporting,
People are more
More-
aware of it?
aware of it and reporting it, so I think that might have a little piece of it, so.
And also, as the internet grows and people become reliant, especially after COVID, so you're gonna see a lot more people putting in their credit card numbers and their personal information. And I myself was constantly shopped on Amazon. And so the more usage you have, the more likely you're gonna have identity fraud and theft. But there are avenues to secure yourself, and there are softwares that you can get to utilize that. And the police department is very good. They can advise you as to how to minimize any theft. Okay.
And I think our local press has been pretty good. They've gotten some articles out lately, letting people know what's going on so people are aware.
There are ways you can protect yourself, so you just have to Google that, and you'll
Yeah.
come up with a list. We're trying to get it also up on our Facebook page.
You know what, Chief, maybe we could put it on our website also, like we'll connect it, and since it is a growing crime factor, let's make the public aware of the avenues that they can do. Great, perfect.
As you said before, Live on 25 comes back to us tonight.
Yes.
So we're all pretty excited. Just a reminder that Main Street will be closed from 3 o'clock this afternoon to probably about 10:30 tonight. So everyone should be aware of that. We do have on top of that another road closure. East Main Street at the railroad tracks will be closed today from about 11 to 1:30 for emergency repair on the, God bless you, on the railroad tracks. So,
And I'm gonna say that the Riverhead PD always protects us nicely at the Alive 125 events. You guys are always out in force, and I appreciate the work that you do when we have large gatherings like that.
and
So
make sure
that other closure, that's at the end of
right at the railroad tracks on East Main Street.
Riverside?
Right,
Okay,
Riverside.
boy, that's a central spot right
The
there.
central spot, the MTA is going to take care of it,
Okay,
so I think probably Riverside will stay open and Fishel will stay open, so you could probably skirt around it that way.
okay.
We won't be forced to stay in town hall and work.
That's it, everyone has to remain here until Live on 25, so.
Got it.
I just have one thing that caught my eye, and maybe there's reason for it, but it looks like every time I review the revenue chart, that the alarm fees seem to be alarmingly the highest
Yeah, so-
percentage. It's like 2/3 of the total revenue.
Yeah, no. And it goes up and down because depending on when the billing takes place at headquarters, so sometimes it's higher than the last year.
But
and
that's
sometimes
really
it's-
just responding to home alarms?
Actually, business alarms.
Business alarms,
We don't do
okay.
residential alarm billing,
Oh,
so.
good, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, crime rate is steady, which is a good sign of policing.
We're doing good.
Yes, you're doing good. Well,
Thank you.
we have a great police department, and I can tell you that firsthand.
We do, for
Right.
sure.
I think it's always hard to compare these numbers like to last year. You really got to go back 2 years ago, because last year everybody was on lockdown. And so it's hard to be, if you're, on your chart, you're looking from 21 to 20, but it's really should be like 21 to 2019 or 18 for that matter.
Yeah, which as the supervisor noted, that we actually note that on the bottom, that the 20 numbers are from COVID lockdown, so.
Well, Chief, it's also important to note that crime during COVID and during the lockdown, crime across many Suffolk counties exponentially increased. And in Riverhead, they exponentially went down.
There you go.
And that's something that we should be proud of in this town. And good job, Chief.
So I have heard that statistics have been up with people seeking mental health services. So I was surprised that domestics aren't up, because there was some thinking that during COVID and such, and, with everything that's going on, domestics would be up, but they're not.
We were last year up with the domestics, and actually, we met recently with Family Service League as far as their services that they have available to the public and available to the police department as far as if people need help and how to get them to Family Service League. They are doing, there's a DASH program in Suffolk County, however, it's located up west in Hopog, but they actually have now started a mini DASH program in Family Service League, 400 West Main Street. So we have the ability to take, when the hours are operational, up west it's 24/7, out here it's not 24/7. So, but when they are operational, we have the ability to take them there instead of taking them to Hopog when they need assistance. So, but we're working hand in hand with Family Service League on those issues.
Thank you, that's good to know.
All right, Chief.
Good.
Again, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Don't leave one too far, just think you're
No,
next on the
I'm
list.
staying.
Okay, let's see, what do we have? Matters surrounding Chapter 255. This work session item I put on the agenda. Recently, I have spoken to ORS, the Office of Renewable Energy in Albany. I had spoken to the applicant to work on creating a pilot solar benefit to our community.
Wait, this is
Oh,
different.
wait, I'm sorry.
We're doing the
That's it.
255.
Oh, wait, you're doing the 255, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Somebody put the wrong name on there.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay, you got it. Let's go back to that, and then we're gonna go after, sorry, Kaz, you'll wait next. Thank you for,
Yep.
I don't know, they integrated both together, so go ahead. So why don't you take the lead, because I think you have
Sure.
some
Frank,
adjustments
do you need a copy too?
somewhere along the line?
Catherine, do you have a copy of the former, the one that you tabled?
No,
If you
I
needed
don't
it,
have,
if you
I
need the
don't have that.
resolution, it's
Here it
here.
is, Catherine. This was the resolution you tabled, last week.
So I did,
Yeah,
This
Several,
is-
yeah, we all tabled it.
so I did speak to the gentleman that's running the event, and the initial concerns he did address at the last meeting, and so although I did want to proceed, it was tabled. He was concerned about restroom facilities, so he's agreed to bring in porta potties and things like that, and whatever is necessary to accommodate the means that are there, because there are no operating, and so I think that was one remark on his application was about using the existing restrooms in place. So he's gonna bring in porta potties. The other thing was the parking itself. We do have the parking lot there, but one of the things I did look into and spoke with Dawn and Joe from Community Development. In the past, there have been other events like the Mud Run and even and baseball tournaments and things like that. There is a grass field over there that eventually may become the site of another sports complex, meaning it's in the area of the region where we have a potential of a future ice rink and other things like that. So it is a designated field that has, commonly been, the grass has been cut there. It is an overflow area specifically for parking, so it does not fall within the confines or concerns of the DEC or anything like that. So it has been utilized as a parking area for past events as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going into any grass area that would be of any concerns towards DEC, bird nesting, anything of that nature. So we're making sure this particular area has been cleared. And so it's just a matter of him, once he gets approval of the event, to determine, perhaps how much, and that's really overflow options. He's gonna use the parking lot.
I'm very much in favor of this event. I think this is going to be a wonderful event. My only concern, and I believe Tim, but I'm not going to speak for him right now, was that there might be a conflict of the time schedule with
Yes.
the Scalzo event.
That's been established,
And
that's
you
been
told
addressed.
me
Yes.
before the meeting today that
So,
has been taken
yes.
care of.
Thank you for bringing it up, that's very important. So I did speak to Pete Scalzo himself.
Right.
And Mr. Scalzo said that his event is in the afternoon. So he's starting in the afternoon. He doesn't even expect anyone to arrive at his event till after 1 o'clock.
Great.
His event is in a different area of EPCAL, so he's specifically on the runways, and they'll be coming in on a separate entranceway that brings them to the runways for his parking. This particular event, the 5K, is on the surrounding EPCAL trail, and they're using the recreational parking field. So he feels that this event will take place in the morning, the 5K, that they'll have enough time to exit the area. So in terms of just overall traffic, we also concerned about, him exiting and people arriving. I think there's enough time difference that they won't be overlapping and they should not interfere with each other.
Okay.
Mr. Scalzo has made it clear that, but never wants to stop anything that's gonna help a veteran. So by all means, he's like, please go ahead, they're not gonna be within my realm.
We need to
I-
support our veterans in every way we can.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're asking, Councilman, is to untable this resolution?
Yes, so I'd like it at our next morning meeting to absolutely untable this event, and my concerns have been addressed. I did speak to our chief as well, and so I won't speak on his behalf, but, he also had the similar concerns about the time frame and the two events overlapping, and I think that the time on it, one being in the morning, the second one being in the afternoon, should alleviate that, but I won't speak for him because he's right here.
Yeah.
If you want to
Yeah,
share any thoughts or
And
concerns,
a couple of
Chief.
things. First of all, I do recall the meeting, and we were all in favor of the event. Everybody liked the event. Certainly, we all support veterans. I think there was just a concern with the two events, and we hadn't heard from everybody yet. So with the chief here, maybe you would come up and just
Catherine, you-
address this a little bit with us and give us a little bit of information.
3 people voted for, to table it. You were one, and myself and Rothwell voted for the event. So everybody wasn't on the same, that's why we're here. But anyway, Chief, would you please come forward?
Well, and I do want to clarify that I think we were all in favor of the event. We just wanted to firm up a little details. It's always a good idea to work things out prior and make sure that we have all our bases covered. So that
And
was
that's
it.
correct.
All
Any
right.
event, any resolution that we have forward, we have to make sure that we do our due diligence and that everything is in check, and that's our job. That's our job. So,
Right.
um,
So what do you got,
Chief?
Chief?
I haven't seen the detailed plan yet, but I have talked to the promoter after the last meeting. And before that, you guys kept me in the loop as far as your emails back and forth, as far as the times and stuff like that. And I have an overall idea of what the event's about. I don't think there's going to be an issue. I think hopefully they'll be out by a certain period of time, and they might even want to stipulate that in the agreement or whatever, that they're out by
absolutely.
noon or something, right? So we don't interfere with Mr. Scalzo's event.
Correct.
And Mr. Scalzo's event was a rain date, right?
Yes, so his event is not necessarily scheduled on that date, but yes, if one of his first 4 weekends does get rained out, it's an alternative date that he may or may not, in fact, be there in the afternoon.
But, and it shouldn't, as you said, it shouldn't be an issue anyway. They should be done way ahead of time and out there, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
hopefully
well,
we can do the two.
And
Yep.
it's actually good. I mean, it is a rain date, so
Right.
let's hope
Right.
and pray anyway that we don't even have to worry about it. But, so you haven't had an opportunity to see the plan, though?
His plan yet? No. He gave me a diagram of his route at the last meeting, so I did review that. And I think that had changed from what he originally planned, so now he's staying totally on the.
They're telling you to be louder.
Now they're staying totally on the exercise trail, so.
So, the hours of the run are what hours?
Morning, 9 o'clock?
Carol, do you have those?
Is it in the
Carol
reso?
does the 2:55. Carol, could you just maybe give us a little information?
8 to 12, it says in the reso.
8 to 12,
Yes, 8 a.m. to 12.
and then the other one starts at 1, if it's.
No, they would arrive at 1, the other event starts at 4.
Setting up, the other one starts setting up, I think you said, as early as
Setting up
1.
will be done, they may have patrons or, people arriving at
Relax,
1
right.
o'clock to bring their vehicles to the track, and his event does not start until 4.
Spectators with a ticket are allowed to arrive at 1 o'clock.
Okay, well, we've got the meeting coming up, we've got a little time, so I hope by then you get an opportunity to look over the plan. I think maybe the applicant might be here, so, okay,
His full plan, right?
all right, great, thank you.
Yeah, and you'll make sure that everything is in place,
Yeah.
and we're gonna untable it on, we're gonna take a vote to untable
Yep.
on Tuesday.
Yep. Chief, do you mind, we had a conversation just in terms of speaking about the 255s, and I had an in-depth talk with the chief about when these come in and the amount of time that's maybe, you always seem to do an initial review of it, but really to spend hours on looking over plans and things like that for a 255 that might not be approved would not be prudent to assign officers and times and hours to something that we then choose to deny.
Fire marshals,
Yeah, so you just don't have the.
engineer, police department,
So,
attorney's office, planning, the
So-
amount of review that you need, the approval of the application is just the application itself. It's not necessarily of the event. So, and I agree with you. So to go through that extent, that extensive, and the amount of money that's gonna cost, and then it doesn't get approved, and then the applicant has to go get insurance also. It doesn't make sense, and I think there's been a little bit of
There are
misunderstanding.
people that contact us that have filled out, requests for 255 events, and then actually they don't come to fruition on their side, whether it's just not cost prohibitive, whatever the reasons may be. But I think the conversation that I had with the chief, and I just wanted to kind of elaborate and explain it, if I am correct, that you take, certainly after each one of these is voted on, there's a more in-depth look at the protocol, the safety measures, and it's not, you're not looking to say, you are going to, deny one or approve one. We're doing it here, but you're gonna bring up the safety aspect of it and so forth, and to make sure that all the concerns are addressed. Am I kind of accurate in
Right,
that?
so once I get it, it's assigned to one of my upper staff level, so it goes to a lieutenant, captain, or myself, and then the planning goes on from there. Mr. Scalzo's plan, we're already into our, I think, third meeting with him. And they've been lengthy meetings where we've sat down and gone over his plan in depth with the fire marshal, so there's a lot of work that's going into that. As we said the other day, on the old ones like Country Fair and Polish Fair and stuff like that, those are pretty easy because we've been doing them for 30
Long
years.
time,
So,
right.
right, you have
That's
the plan
different.
already from last year. You're gonna tweak it a little for this year. The same with the Live on 25. I met with Steve yesterday, Steve Shoger, about the fireworks. And there was a little issue last year as far as people exiting and traffic and stuff like that. So we've worked out a detailed plan now as far as we're handling that tonight. So we're not mixing, we're trying our best not to mix people with vehicles and stuff like that,
Right.
so.
And it makes sense to, you approve it, we agree as a board, it's something that we want, and then after that, it's gonna go through an extensive review. And again, all those units and departments, and to do that, and it doesn't get approved by the board, it's a waste of time, bad management in my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely bad management on my mind. And the other thing is that, everybody should be mindful that we can cancel at any time. We can cancel, we can stop the operation.
It's, and all, for safety protocols and things like that, if something was not addressed as promised, so to speak. But I also, it just leads me into one last thing, if you don't mind, as a supervisor, is that these takes time, right? So it
Right,
takes a lot of
so,
time,
right.
and so I have concerns about some applications, and not to change course, but the time frame. I just, we're talking right now about, the Bob Feller active ballot. You need the appropriate amount of time to review things, to look things over, get into it. So I get concerned about some of these that are coming in that we want to, they're filed late.
I mean,
And that puts a strain on you and the fire marshal trying to review these events in time. And I just want the general public to know that, we may support certain events. However, if it's filed late, we might not be giving you the appropriate amount of time to review them.
His should be a little on the easy side because we're not mixing people with roadways and stuff like that, so
Yep.
hopefully that'll make things go smoother. But you're right, as far as time, some of them take a lot of time. As I say, the grandfathered ones, the ones we've done before, don't take a lot of time.
Yep.
New ones that we haven't seen, like the racing at EPCAL, that takes a lot of time to do.
Yeah.
And that's why these time limits are in place for these different applications, and I don't even know, 6 months or whatever it is, 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's why they're there, so we have time to review it. And they have time to get everything in place, their insurance and everything else, so.
Yep.
I remember on the COVID, reviewing some of the events, we had to include the legal component, we had to include the state, the governor's component, the Department of Health.
The restrictions.
Yeah, there was so many restrictions. But we only put all that effort after we're saying that the event may take off.
Yeah.
So it's not approving the event, it's approving the application.
Correct.
And so people have to understand the difference. It's just like when you file an application to any government entity, you file the application, that's when they start the process to
Yeah.
see if you meet the standards.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, and that's how I know government, being an expert in government, in business and in government. So that's how I understand it. You apply, the board approves the application, and then it's gonna take its course, and it might go forward.
Yep.
So I hope that we clarified that to the
Yep.
public.
Yeah,
Do you
keyword
agree
is
with
application,
what's
yeah.
going on, Frank?
And before we go on, I'd like to make a couple of statements for the record. I disagree. I'm not saying that you have to spend a tremendous amount of time looking at things, but I think details matter. I think it's foolhardy to approve things and then play catch-up and look at what could be safety issues or concerns or safety things for our community afterwards. I think you should be looking at most of those things ahead of time before the events. I think it's prudent and smart to look at things ahead of time. So details matter, and so I'm going to disagree on that.
No one said details that matter, but
Yeah.
let's just move on for this
Okay.
topic. I hope that the public understands, and I think the board is in agreement, with this. And at any time, if anybody has a problem with an application, you can table it until it goes forward anyway, so that's an option. And so let's move forward on to, thank you, Chief, for coming back up here again.
Thank you,
No
Chief.
problem. And thank you, Chief, for taking
And I
time
think
to
you have
go
a-
over it with me yesterday. Thank you.
Yes, I think you have some other 255.
Before we move on, one other point I wanted to add. One of my concerns too is if you approve something and then you take a look at it and figure out that that's not right. Sometimes people have started advertising the event or moving forward with it, and I actually find that to be more of an issue. I forgot to mention that.
Well, the application is, well, all we're approving is the application, we're not approving the event. Unfortunately, it's a little difficult, for you to understand. But Captain, we're gonna move on to the next topic, okay?
Speaking of the next topic, I'd like to recuse myself from the conversation.
Yes.
My wife's family has an interest in the application that was approved, and I am going to excuse myself.
Okay, we'll call you, where you gonna be? We'll call you back in. You'll be outside? Okay, great.
Maybe outside.
Oh, out.
It's hot out there.
You'll be at the diner.
Before we start this discussion, and I am just gonna bring this in, and I know that we spoke about it yesterday, Ken. There's been, Chip, you are part of this conversation, concerning, meetings, open law meetings, OMLs, as we, open meeting lawyers, OMLs. The governor has suspended virtual, component for official meetings, which are open meetings like the planning board, the CDA, this meeting, the work sessions. So as far as Zooming, those individuals who sit on the boards, all our committees and all our boards, you are officials of the town, and legally, you need to be present. We researched the item extensively through attorneys and the state, and you cannot vote if you're on vacation, you can't vote by phone, you can't vote by Zoom, and you can't vote by proxy. So everybody physically in those boards have to be here. However, that does not apply to the meetings that are like advisory in nature. They can continue with Zoom if they choose. However, in Riverhead Town, and we're gonna agree to do this, our IT person is taxed. If somebody wants a Zoom meeting, you set them up, and the person who runs that is gonna be responsible for running it. I need you to continue securing our infrastructure, that we moved forward quite a bit under COVID, but I need Chip. He's here, 9 o'clock meeting, 8 o'clock meeting, 9 o'clock at night. It needs to stop. We only have one, IT head here, and he's being taxed, and we're hoping that this is gonna alleviate, and he needs to continue. He's upgrading our system, and we need to move our infrastructure forward. And so advisory in nature, if they're not boards, you can continue. It's up to the liaison to continue and to administer that meeting. They're gonna have to take responsibility. If not, you can come in and have it in person. That's the other option. Okay, Chip? Okay?
So a couple things. First of all, I do want to say that I did send an email and request that this be on the agenda. And the reason I asked for this to be on the agenda is because we are hearing from a lot of people on committees. I know I'm hearing from people on my committees, and I know that some of the other committees have reached out to the town board coordinator, and I don't think this is probably different in other towns or other entities, that a lot of people found that the Zoom was really very convenient for them. On some of my committees, like the downtown committee, which is a large committee of 16 people, and the environmental committee is 14 people. Some of them have really very busy schedules, and more of them have actually been able to attend with the Zoom. So the reason I did bring it up was just to work out those things, because I know that it was really very hard for Chip. Meetings were at all hours, and he was having to come in, open the meeting, and that was really very difficult. So I did want to have the discussion with my council mates and see what everybody else thought, because I think, to make things better for the residents, we work for the community, and if we're trying to be user-friendly, I do think it's, maybe we could work something out. I know for some of my committees, sometimes I'm able to set up the Zoom, because I've even had committees that want to meet on a Sunday, which I certainly never wanted to make Chip come to. So these were the kind of things that I wanted to work on, and I guess we did get a legal opinion on this, as to which we have is there a legal opinion?
Yes, there is, Catherine, and I'm glad that you're going to benefit from it, but we can, if you're an advisory, you can have it, but you have to run your own meeting, or you have the option of having it in person. I did, and you are aware that I've been researching this topic. I did contact the attorney's office 3 weeks ago. We have spoken to the state. We have spoken to the governor's office in this regard. We have spoken to the Association of Towns in this regard. And we do have a legal opinion that was, I have a memo that was ready to go out, and I decided to bring it to work session. But this has been in the works, and Catherine, you are very well aware that this has been something that we've been discussing. And I'm going to ask Anne Marie to come forward and just add to it, because Anne Marie has been vital. Dan McCormick initially was working on this. 3 weeks ago, the town attorney has been working on this, and you have been working on it. So
Yes.
Can you give us your legal opinion?
Sure.
Just real quick,
So,
Anne Marie, before you begin.
Well, I want to clarify.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, yes, Dan McCormick did extensive research. Bob was part of that. I dovetailed into it. And I think the last cog in the wheel, though, I think legally, the three attorneys agree on what the open meetings law requires, in that those boards which have, quote, decision-making authority, where there are a legislative branch of the town of Riverhead, where they have the ability to make definitive determinations, those are subject to open meetings laws. And yes, there are laws that state that for those boards, those board members the meeting shall be open, and they shall be present, and not proxy voting or things like that.
Telephone,
Well, that's
Zoom,
proxy, right.
Zoom,
Right.
Zoom.
Right. Well, now that the governor's office lifted that, then the statutory provisions that previously existed remain in full force and
That's
effect.
correct.
With respect to the advisory committees, I think the supervisor and the councilwoman are stating the very same thing. I think your goal is to attempt to accommodate those committees and provide them some alternate means rather than necessarily doing it in person. With respect to the legal memo, to clarify, I definitely gave an opinion and a list, and together with Dan chimed in, but we didn't, quote, solidify it. And we owe that to you, Supervisor, to solidify and provide to all the town board members, town board, zoning board, planning board, farmland, Board of Assessment Review, and there's 4 or 5 others that are subject to open meetings law. Why? Pursuant to their decision-making authority. For example, somebody may not think farmland committee would be subject to open meetings law. Well, the farmland committee, pursuant to the provisions of the town code, actually is vested with the ability to waive site plan for those
Correct.
farm applications on preserved property. So that's a decision-making authority. Board of Assessment Review has decision-making authority. So I think, and I think Bob and Dan would agree with me, we owe that's the critical memo, really to advise the entire town board. These are the committees that are subject to open meetings law, whose members must be present, and here are the advisory. And as to those advisory, I imagine that you, as a town board, would want to have a discussion, okay, which committees, the committees are going to weigh in, and through their liaisons, they're going to identify, we want to be in person, or we want to do it via Zoom or voicemail or
Right.
whatever technology.
That's great. And Bob, so I know that I asked for this memo to be generated a few weeks ago, so, and I know that there was a lot of research, and Anne Marie, thank you so much. I know that we had to iron this all out, and so we need to send that memo out, and Anne Marie, can that memo go out within the next few days?
Yeah, I would talk and defer to Dan.
Okay, yeah.
Because, he did the original research, and it was
Yes, he did, and he did an
very
extensive,
spot on and on point.
yes, and he did do extensive research. And Bob, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think I do, because I saw the memo a little bit later than when it originally went out, and there were some questions in my mind, what was the issues that were being presented to us. As attorneys, we're always taught that
Yeah.
we want to frame the issues so that we know what it is we're responding to. Because there's a question, under the Open Meetings Law 102, there's really two things that trigger the Open Meetings Law coming in place. Is there a meeting? Is it a public body? You can have a public body, but if they're not convening a meeting to do public business, Open Meetings Law doesn't apply. Similarly, a body can be, a non-public body can be having a meeting, and because they're not a public body that has authority to act, they're not conducting public business, and therefore Open Meetings Law doesn't apply. So that's one of the issues. The other issue is video conferencing, which the Open Meetings Law allows as an option. So there were a lot of things that, when I saw the memo, I was like, okay, what are we looking to achieve, and what is the question that's being presented, or questions that are being presented? I think we understand that, and we're looking to frame our response to answer the questions that are being posed. So I think that was the point I want to make, that there was, question, what is that Open Meetings Law applicable? Is it triggered? And if it is,
That's it.
these are the rules, or this is what should be followed.
So a couple things. First of all, I did not know it was being pursued legally until, and that there was an opinion coming through until last night, and then this morning. I asked to put it on the other day simply because a lot of people on my committees were saying they would prefer to continue to meet Zoom, and I know that the town board coordinator had said she was hearing that from other committees, so I wanted to talk to the other people on the board. Oh, Frank stepped out of the room. And see if they were hearing the same thing. So that's why I put it on there, and I was told that it could not be on the agenda this morning, so I am glad that we're having the discussion. I would like to, work it all out, and perhaps if Dan is working on some kind of opinion, Dan's not here today, or?
Dan coincidentally is participating, and hopefully he was able to make it work, a video conference that was being hosted by the Committee on Open Government today, starting at 10
Yes.
o'clock.
Yes, and all the
That's
supervisors,
apropos.
all the supervisors,
It was, he's participating through WebEx, and hopefully he's hearing some of the same questions and asking some of the same questions that other municipalities, their attorneys, their council, their boards are asking. Kristen O'Neill from the Committee on Open Government to respond to. So
Okay.
coincidentally, it's today they're having that conference.
Well, bottom line, I'm glad that we were able to let some people still meet by Zoom. That's good news, and that we don't have to tax Chip and have him working 24 hours a day.
yes.
So
and-
that's it.
and
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
advisory committees, you can set up the meeting for them, send them the credentials, but they have to learn how to manage them. And,
If I can add to the fact that, so Catherine, you did ask how some of the other committees meet. Yesterday, we had the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, so we haven't had an opportunity to meet in a year and a half because of COVID. We had about 15 people here yesterday,
Yes.
and they were thrilled to be here in
Yeah.
person and to start exchanging these and right to work. And we spent a couple hours together in here. But it was good because the documentation of passing back and they're creating this incredible senior citizen advisory book which we'll talk about in the future, but just the idea, they were thrilled to work together. The Alternative Transportation Committee, we've met here, we've had meetings scheduled here, but more importantly, they're a committee that loves meeting outdoors, so we go out, we meet on the trail and other things, but
Yeah,
so
I
they
know.
still want to get together in different capacities. Veterans Advisory Committee, we have throughout the pandemic, we've chosen to meet in here. We've always had Zoom as an option, but Chip was, I don't think anybody ever utilized it. You know, the committee still came in person. And so, but
Okay.
it was a big step, I think, yesterday for the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee,
It was
for all
great.
of them to come in and to gather around the work table. It was great.
And they have
Well, I'm
such a
finding it's a, I find it's a
cohesive group.
mix with the committee. Some of my committees do want to meet in person, but some of the committees where the people maybe are working late or their schedule, it's hard for them scheduling to like the Zoom. So it's nice that we have the option now with the advisory committees, and we can leave it to the chair of the committee and for the committee to figure out.
Perfect, and that was the goal, and I just want to thank Anne Marie, Dan, Kaz, and I know what this is a little process, because now we have to undo and retrain people to start coming in. But we're in line with what all the other towns are doing. I've communicated with them, and this is exactly where the route that they're going. And again, I need that memo sent out. I know we started the process 3 weeks ago, and I know when Catherine Kent asked for it to be put on, she didn't call me, she called Devin, the deputy, and she was informed by email that this is an ongoing process that we've been working on, and we have the email, Devin has the email, and that it will be up for work session. So, and here we are, and I'm glad we reached an agreement. So we're gonna move forward from this topic. Okay, finally, our next topic, this yours or mine? I don't have mine.
You're welcome to utilize that.
Okay, if you don't mind, okay, thank you. So we're gonna move on and on to, hold on, we're just shuffling a little bit of papers here. The next discussion is on matters surrounding Solar 2 project, and Kasakevich and Murphy will be speaking on this. I just wanna make a few notes. That I have spoken to the state personally, to the Office of Renewable Energy, and what's the S for, Bob? ORS?
Boris,
Renewable energy siting.
Citing, okay. To the head concerning a pilot or community benefit to us, and I have spoken to the applicant. Recently, an application was approved by the state. We didn't make any comments because it followed an old application, and that was approved by the planning board here. So there was some misconception that we were neglectful. There were lots of statements being made across the board, and we did not have to make a statement. Within the same application, it also stated that the applicant has to go to the host community and create and develop a pilot community benefit. While the application is approved, just like the 255s, there's some housekeeping that has to be done. We've been working, we have been researching, we had a generic pilot, that me and myself and Kasakevich were working on and looking at before we bring it to the town board and then to work session. And since the application was recently approved, we're here now for work session to address it and to deal with some of the misconceptions that we have been seeing within the last week. And I'm going to ask Bob to come forward, please. And then thereafter, Jeff, would you come forward to speak about, compare last week's work session, and so we can demystify some of the conceptions that took their own life. And then thereafter, we have the applicant here, who's going to speak with us and speak with the community concerning our community benefit.
Good morning, and thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for an opportunity to talk about the project. I have gone back and forth between preparing a speech and not preparing a speech. I'm not one for prepared speeches, so I'm going to not do that and try to stay with my notes.
Okay.
You already touched upon a couple of points that I wanted to reach out to you, the board on, the public on, who's listening, and that is the whole concept that the comments that were made, and in my opinion, as a general observation, much of what was said to create the idea that they were stated as facts, when in fact there's a great deal of opinion. I also wanted to point out that I think that there's a fundamental flawed underpinning here, and that is with respect to the dichotomy between the Article 10 process and the 94C process.
Can you describe both so the public is aware?
Well, I mean, I've already
One
done
is
that.
town
I've done that
related.
once. No, well, they're both for state proceedings. They both were state
Okay.
processes. Different agencies that reviewed them, different agencies as far as the approval process and the process itself. The Article 10 process involved multiple steps. There was a PIP, public, oh God, I didn't prepare myself for this type of submission, but there was a public involvement plan, right? And then there was the actual application process, so there was a multifaceted aspect to it. What I wanted to show was that to simply disregard that Article 10 process and say that we were seriously mistreated or not properly represented is, I think, wrong. And I say that for a lot of reasons. One, we were heavily involved in the the Article 10 process. We had numerous conversations. We had numerous communications back and forth. We, in fact, had very long conference calls between all the departments involved, the applicant, and all of those who were involved in the process at that stage, whether it was the New York State Department of Agriculture, and these other groups can be spoken to if need be. The ORIS record itself, when you look at the permit that was issued on June 25th, 2021, at page 1, it states the following: this permit is supported by the extensive record compiled in the Public Service Law Article 10. It's right there, page 1. Page 3, again, this siting permit issued herein is based upon the plans, specifications, reports, statements, agreements, and other information submitted by or on behalf of the permittee in the application record for this facility, which consists of the Public Service Law, quotes, or parens, PSL, end of parens, Article 10 application. Again, it's right there. So to attack us on the failure to put record forth on the ORIS, I think is misplaced. There's been a lot of what I want to call doom and gloom, a lot
Yes.
of Chicken Little kind of comments that the sky's falling about the community benefits agreement, the pilot agreement, and even the easement. And I want to address that because when you look at the ORIS record, if you care to look at it, it's in there. It's mentioned. It's one of the criteria that's going to be addressed during the process. And in fact, again, in the siting permit, page 9, if someone cares to read it, it says, the permittee shall provide host community benefits such as payments in lieu of taxes, pilots, and other payments pursuant to a host community agreement or other projects agreed to by the host community. It's in there. Now, just to be sure, I reconfirmed things. I spoke with Mr. Moscato and Ms. Clammy, who are counsel for Young and Summer. They affirmed they are prepared and ready to come to the town, talk to us about community benefit agreement, talk to us about a pilot agreement, and they're prepared to pay an easement, just like they did for their Riverhead Solar One project. Those are irrefutable, and any misconstrued factual underpinnings in that regard are misplaced. And for those who are doom and gloom and Chicken Little, please stop.
It is,
Enough.
and you know what, a lot of energy within a week on this of how terrible town handled the issue. And what, Bob, what really concerned me was that there was indicators that we didn't respond We had a public hearing.
I put in the comments, and I did participate in the process. I went online, I listened to the proceeding, I didn't put any comments in.
Yeah.
But I do have the records to show that I signed on to it. In addition to that, in December 3rd, last year, I presented to this board a presentation on the transition from the Article 10 to the 94C process. Thereafter, I made the intervenor fund request. Then I had discussions with applicant, including Mike Farrell. We participated in a PowerPoint presentation. I had numerous conversations with Michael Cusack, who's the ORIS counsel. In March of this year, when the combined notice was issued, two things happened. My office circulated it to the entire town board, and it was posted on the website per your direction. It's still on the town website.
I know.
If anybody cares to look, there's a link, Riverhead Solar 2. So to suggest that it was done without any involvement is misplaced.
Been on the
I have
website
to ask, 'cause
since
I-
how long? It's been on the website?
Since March.
Since March.
Since on about March 11th.
And including the people who also chimed in on this,
Well,
the Zoom
you're-
from last Thursday, they weren't part of that process either. They claimed we
well,
weren't, but
you're-
they weren't
you're-
either, so
You're
it's just.
addressing my points. Nothing stopped them from commenting. Nothing stopped them from participating in the May 11th meeting. Nothing stopped them from picking up this phone and speaking to Jeff or myself. As you can tell, I'm a bit annoyed. I felt deeply offended. I felt my
I think the
integrity had
town
been
is-
attacked. My professionalism with this town has been attacked. I've put in 20 years plus with the town. I've tried to do my best. My office is busy, very busy.
I know.
And to insinuate and use words like slacker, I felt was misplaced. I'm
And you know
sorry
what?
for my feelings, but that's just the way I feel, and I wanted to express it, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and you know what, the town board was criticized, I myself was constantly criticized. It took on its life with a selected few, but we're here today to clarify this.
And again, as was said by at least one speaker, let's move forward. One other thing I want to make, when the Riverhead Solar One project was approved, they received special permit, they received site plan, and it was thereafter that we negotiated with them for a community benefit agreement.
Which we always did.
And a pilot agreement, and an easement. And I have no doubt that what I'm hearing from the council is that RIV 2 will do the same thing. They'll be a reputable company, and they will negotiate with us in good faith and let that process move forward.
Yes, cohesively, informing the public and make sure that we tie all the legal components that we need to. And thank you, Bob. And I share in your frustration, because some of us here in the town board were quite
Take my
offended
job
with what happened.
seriously and to suggest I'm a slacker, even though I wasn't
Yes.
purposely accused of that, was very disheartening, I have to say the least.
Yeah.
Bob, know that you are greatly appreciated, and the entire work of your department is greatly appreciated. And I've learned since I've came here in January that you can't allow one or two opinions to misguide us or send us on a different course. You're doing great work and staying on the course to complete this project. So you are appreciated. I guess that's what I'm saying. All right.
Okay, and Jeff, thank you so much. Jeff, would you please come forward to inform the public and see where we are? And then I'm going to have the applicant come forward. And Mr. Farrell, thank you very much for, on short notice, to agreeing to come before us and inform the public where we are. And I think after you finish, we're going to be in really good shape, and we're going to move forward, and the town is not losing any funds, never was threatened to lose any funds, and will not lose any funds. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize if I repeat some of what Bob has already said. My comments are going to be a little bit lengthier than his. Both Bob and myself have been reviewing this application going back as late as 2018 and 2019 under the Article 10 process. Development is now being reviewed under the Article 94C process. Planning Department and Town Attorney's Office have worked with the applicant in addressing community concerns throughout this entire process about the proposed development. Most, if not all, of the issues raised by Ms. Blass last week and the residents are the same that have been raised in all of the recent solar farm applications. Ms. Blass stated last week some very harsh criticism of the town staff.
She sure did.
The town relinquished its responsibilities and failed miserably, accused staff of dereliction of duty. We are slackers. We dropped the ball, and we failed to show up to the game. I have spoken with Ms. Blass on several occasions throughout the years. Not once has she ever asked me about this project or voiced any concerns to me or to Bob about it. It is clear that her comments last week were nothing more than a carefully planned and scripted ambush of staff. The purpose of the 94C process is intended to fast-track review of alternative energy applications as set forth by the Governor of New York. To address the concerns by the community and Ms. Blass, the first one is project's consistency with the master plan. The proposed S-Power application is zoned industrial A and C and is entirely consistent with the recommendation zoning as recommended in the 2003 master plan. The adoption of the continuation of the industrial classification was actually recommended by the Planning Board in 2002 and adopted by the Town Board in 2003. And this, the industrial classification of Calverton, goes back preceding 1973. To offset the upzoning, as remember, the upzoning of the APC zone from 1 to 2 acre zoning and the agricultural preservation zone, the town recognized the need to balance the loss in property tax revenue by expanding commercial and industrial development throughout the town. The 2003 master plan did not recommend replacing industrial zoning in Calverton with agricultural preservation. There are some members who have voiced concern about the solar farms development in their community. At the same time, they're voicing concerns about any industrial development within their community. But again, industrial development is consistent with the 2003 master plan. The second issue has to do with the application review process and the issues specifically raised, identified by Ms. Blass last week. The S-Power 2 application followed the exact environmental review as to the S-Power 1 in terms of the content of what was being analyzed. The S-Power 1 application, in terms of the secret review, was conducted by Jess Seaman, who I think we all know, whose credentials are second to none, who reviewed the environmental impact statement on behalf of the Planning Board. In the end, and based upon Mr. Seaman's recommendations, the Planning Board found that there were, quote, no significant adverse environmental impacts associated with that development. In further applications, the first application, solar farms, approved by the Planning Board, the Planning Board found that there was no significant environmental impacts. The second application to come in, and I believe that's called Scudderworks, it was also proposed and developed by S-Power. The Planning Board found that there were no significant environmental impacts. The third project was S-Power 1. The Planning Board found that there were no significant adverse environmental impacts. And the last application that was reviewed by the town, which I'm sure you all remember, was the Nextera application. The Town Board found that there were no significant adverse environmental impacts. Throughout these 4 other applications, the community raised the following issues of concern as expressed by Ms. Blass last week, and were exactly reviewed by staff in all 4 of these other applications. Number 1, loss of farmland. This issue has been going on for decades prior to any submission of solar farm applications. There's never a recommendation in the 2003 master plan to rezone this area to agriculture. This concern does not take into consideration all the farmland that has been lost in the other areas of the town. Zoning alone does not preserve farmland very well. The best way to protect ag soils is to buy the property fee title or the purchase of the development rights. Active agricultural land is well distributed throughout the town and the greater Calverton area. Approximately 35% of the entire land area in the town of Riverhead is currently in active agricultural use. The town of Riverhead has over 5,000 acres of farmland than Suffolk County, or the next largest town that has it is Suffolk, town of Southwold. The proposed action is not permanent and will have a finite term of 20 to 30 years, after which the land may be repurposed for another use, including agriculture. Unlike other commercial and industrial developments, solar farms do not remove prime agricultural soils. They do not have concrete foundations, nor a large paved parking lot where all the topsoil is removed, which is 100% guarantee that it will remove any ability for future farming of the property. Wetlands, there are no impacts. There are 3 identified wetlands as shown in the site plan, and the 150-foot wetland buffer is being proposed. That is consistent with town code. Traffic, no impacts. After its initial construction, there is little, if any, traffic associated with the existing solar farms or the proposed solar farm. Noise, no impact during or after construction. There are very few homes within the surrounding area. The town has received no complaints from any of the other three constructed applications. Magnetic field, no impacts. Wildlife, no impacts pursuant to Department of Environmental Conservation. Historic and archaeological resources, no impacts pursuant to New York State Office of Preservation. Environmental justice areas, these are the low, moderate income areas in the area. There are none, and adjacent to the property, there are adjacent areas. And this area is kind of confusing. This is pursuant to the census. This has to do with the Homestead area off of Toomey Avenue. There's an elementary school up there, and I don't think that this area is a lower, moderate, or minority area. So I'm kind of confused by that, but that's a census tract identification. But that was identified by the applicant, and there were no impacts to it. Vibration impacts, none. Water quality. Agricultural uses typically represent a significant demand for potable water, for irrigation, and are sources for potential water source contamination, such as nitrogen and pesticides. Cumulative impacts, none. This word is a buzzword that has been misused on this application and numerous other solar farm applications. By definition under SECRA, if two or more actions affecting the same resources are proposed at the same time, their cumulative impact may be significant. And this has been a case with a recent court decision. Simply reviewing the same type of application does not result in cumulative impact. If it did, the planning board would have to examine this issue with all the fast food restaurants along Route 58. If you've seen, we've got quite a few fast food restaurants on Route 58. We would have to examine the cumulative impact for each and every one of them, which we have not, because there is no cumulative impact associated with those. If that was the case, we'd have to examine every single subdivision application in town for cumulative impact. The proposed action will not cause significant population increase and will not increase development potential in the project area. The purpose of the proposed action is to replace existing fossil fuel plants with a renewable energy source that does not rely upon combustion of fossil fuels or the generation of significant air emissions, as occurs with existing traditional power plants. And that is directly in support of the state goals. Electrical generation from the proposed action is not a direct factor for inducing population growth or new development in the LIPA transmission or distribution area. There are innumerable other factors associated with new development, whether it be residential or larger scale industrial development in the town of Riverhead, including the availability of land, local land use controls, market demand, and other socioeconomic considerations. Projects for future significant developments require project-specific discretionary approvals from the state or local agencies, such as this application.
Jeff, this is your staff report?
This is not my staff report. This is a summary addressing the issues raised by Ms. Blass last week.
Yes,
Okay,
and he
keep
should
going.
continue. Let him continue.
I just said
Yeah,
you
thank
can
you.
keep going.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing was not the final on chapter in the town's review of the pending application. The planning department, the town attorney's office, and the assessor's office are continuously working with the applicant and the community and will continue to do so with this application. We take the issues and concerns raised by the community very seriously, and we try to make sure that every development application addresses them. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Jeff, can I see the site plan?
It's on the website, and I have only one copy in my office, but the site plan is posted on the applicant's website with the state.
Application's approved already.
Where, is it on
application-
is it on our website?
No.
Okay, I would like to see the site plan for this.
Okay.
And can I see the staff report?
It's currently in the process of being completed. I can have that for you by the end of next week.
Yes, I had requested it and he agreed to do it. Catherine, just be mindful, this application was already approved by the state, and we cannot undo their findings. They found it to all be in compliance. I understand from speaking to the state, if we were not eligible to complete a pilot or community benefit, it would have been a waiver in the application. So any changes go in the application as a waiver. So if we chose not to do a pilot, which makes sense not to do, it would have been a waiver. And it was carefully reviewed, and we can't undo the state that they took it out of our hands, And unfortunately, whether we agree on it or not, right now, we're at the point of working with the community to get our benefits. And I have the applicant here, and maybe, are you done? Catherine, are you done?
Just to address Catherine's concerns, I'm merely summarizing my initial findings and a review of the staff report, and you'll get a complete copy of that next week.
I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work to do it, and now's the time to do it, as we work with the assessor's office and determining what type of funding the Riverhead Town is going to get, so.
If there is a critical issue that I identified through my review, throughout the review of this application, I would have identified it a long time ago. I think you've heard from my summary, we have not identified any substantive issues about this application.
And I understand they use the same model that the planning board approved?
That is correct. For
So
all four.
our town board approved that model, and when it went to the state, when it was taken out of our hands, they used the same model, and you reviewed that at that time, correct?
Yes, and if you take a look at the record, it is probably the most exhaustive, comprehensive, submitted application I ever reviewed in my 40 years as a land use planner.
Okay. Catherine, you have any other questions?
Actually, I do. So I'm in agreement that we move forward from here. Why do we move forward from here? We have no choice. This is where we are. But what I'm seeing today is a complete tap dance and a spin. What happened was, yes, we were not doing the approval or the disapproval, but it was important for us to weigh in as the host community. We had an opportunity to talk about what we wanted to see, setbacks, screenings, different things that we wanted to see in our community. It means zero to me that someone was at the hearing. That means nothing to me, because there are no statements on the record. So I am really, yes, we move forward from here, because that's what we need to do as a town. But our town, people from our town should have been weighing in for the sake of the residents. We needed to make a statement to protect our community, to protect the people of Calverton. This is the largest solar project coming in. We didn't weigh in, and now today people are telling me that that's okay. That's not okay, and that's simply not true. And also to disparage someone's name who, has been a long-time advocate for this town. I believe Barbara Blass actually served Riverhead for 32 years, I think 19 years on the planning board. Barbara and Greg Blass love Riverhead, and she's not a paid employee. It was actually spoken today as if she's a paid employee, and she should have done something. She did this as a resident. So, yes, we move forward from here, but this was not a good thing that happened. I think it would have been better to say, yes, something went wrong, a mistake was made, now we move forward. But don't spin it.
Thank you.
While we're discussing this, I have, throughout this process, I've had conversations with our town attorneys, I've had conversations with Mr. Murphy, and we discussed those things. So I'm just, and I tend to reach out to them and address things, and we speak about it often. So what I don't understand, Catherine, is that if you have specifically concerns, that you too as a councilwoman could speak up and voice those concerns. And so I just don't think it's fair to say we missed it, or to put a blame on an attorney department or the building department, when any one of us could use, at any one of these work sessions or town meetings, can reach out and voice out our concerns.
Including
So
the
I
community.
didn't hear that from you, and I'm just, in terms of me trying to be fairness to the work that the building department is doing and our town attorneys are doing. So I disagree with you. If you had concerns about this project, you certainly had opportunities in the past to speak about it.
Actually, I have often spoken up about the solar, but we couldn't weigh in when this was not brought to a work session. This is exactly why things need to be discussed at work sessions. And we actually have a former councilman here who I know knows this is work sessions are where you sit and people come up and you talk about things and you
Sure.
figure things out. Yes, I would have absolutely spoken up if it had been put on a work session agenda, but it was not.
It is now, and this is the proper approach when we're addressing the pilot and the community benefit. While the application is being reviewed at the state, having a work session doesn't necessarily indicate anything. It was reviewed by the planning, it was reviewed by the attorney, and yes, we need to have work sessions, and now is the appropriate time. Again, getting back to the 255, you're gonna have work session and all this, and the application is not approved. That's a classic example. Now, we bring it to the public. I think that we have a pretty good community benefit, a pilot resolution that's being worked on. We have a draft. It's gonna be generated to the full town board, and everybody can chime in, and I think we're in good standing. And Mr. Farrell, can you please come forward? This is the applicant to Solar 2, and again, thank you for speaking to me in length as to where we are and agreeing, just Friday, I think it was,
Yeah.
agreeing to be here on Tuesday. We'd like to hear, and the public deserves to hear from you.
Yeah,
Good morning.
well, let me first say it's my pleasure to be here, and, aside from what we're talking about here, it's just nice to be in person with everyone.
Sir, can you just bring the microphone up?
Oh,
so that we hear a little better? Thank you.
I can start my karaoke.
There you go.
It's just good to be here in person anyway. I'm glad everyone's sort of, COVID-wise, it was obviously very difficult, obviously talking about a project like this during COVID and everything else. I echo a lot of things that Bob and Jeff are saying. I think, Councilwoman Kent, I just want to address one point that you made. I think some of the confusion lies, and this is not just with this town, this is across New York State. When the projects got put from a seeker process, which is the local process that Solar, Riverhead 1 went through, and what recently the NextEra project is going through. For projects less than 25 megawatts, that's what goes through the local seeker process. For projects greater than 25 megawatts, it used to be Article 10. If you could stay in Article 10, or then they established Section 94C of the executive law. I just want to say that the Article 10 and 94C process is considerably more robust than the local seeker process, not just here. I mean, that's anywhere. That's not a specific to Riverhead thing. It's a very robust process that does require consistent engagement from the local community and feedback. And I just want to make one point. One of the key requirements of both Article 10 and 94C is a comparison of the local laws versus what the standard uniforms and conditions are for ORES. And in this case, the setback requirements from non-participating landowners for ORES is actually larger than what the town of Riverhead has. So we actually had to adhere to a more significant requirement than what even the town had for Riverhead 1. That was one example. Things can go in both directions, fully agree, but the state takes very seriously comparing the local laws versus the state laws. And just to say, in the normal course, we are, longtime community members. We're going to be here a while. We have existing projects. We love the Riverhead community. We've supported, local organizations in addition to, obviously there's previous pilot community benefit payments and then a previous easement payment. And in the normal order of course, we would enter into negotiations with the town in order to enter into a pilot, a host community benefit agreement, and an easement agreement related to Riverhead Solar 2.
Well, yeah,
so-
and if I could
yeah,
just
absolutely, yeah.
jump in one
Yeah.
minute. First of all, I do appreciate you being here, and it is good to
Yeah,
be back in
thank you.
person. And we did weigh in on the Article 10, and that Riverhead was working on it. But you know that there are lots of topics and different topics that the
So-
town could have weighed in on, correct? At the hearing, there are lots of things that the town could have brought up.
People can comment on anything
Right.
across the steps, so,
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
comment on
The town
what you
should've-
could weigh in
town
on.
should've-
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
my only point was,
Yeah.
yes, we should have weighed in. That was an opportunity for the town to make any points that they wanted to make, and that's a missed opportunity, but yes, you're here now, and we move forward.
Yeah.
And you are part of the town, and you had you had the option of weighing in from the beginning also. So anybody could have weighed in, the public could have weighed in, council members could have weighed in, planning could have weighed in, but we were behind the scenes discussing and monitoring. And, you know, Mr.
The
Farrell,
town is supposed to weigh in, it's supposed to be the supervisor's office, I believe the planning and building department, and the town attorneys.
Okay, you're running for office, don't run your campaign here. Let's move forward. It is an open process. It's under the direction of planning. This is a planning issue and concern and application when we move forward from that. And, you know, Mr. Farrell, I just want to know, and I thought you said it a little quick, so I don't want to expand
Yeah,
on
sorry,
it
yeah.
to inform the public. When I spoke to the state, you had requested that the setbacks be the same ones that Riverhead Town has, our setbacks. And after speaking to the state, and they had the option to do this, and they actually ruled in our favor and against you, they said, no, our setbacks are more stringent, and we're gonna keep those.
Yeah.
And I
different
like
applications.
that, you know, it was when, after speaking to the state, to know that they had our interest, and unfortunately it wasn't beneficial to you, but it was definitely beneficial to us. And that was also addressed, that we needed to weigh in on the setbacks and this and that. The state decides how it's gonna go. The fact that we followed, the Solar One, which is the most complicated application, it was approved by the town, and you took that, same parameters, and you brought it up to the state. I mean, that's an indicator that we're doing our job. You know, we did a great job with Solar One when it was with the town, and then you decided to take it and bring it to the state, and the state decided, hey, you know what, let's go with our more stringent setbacks. And I know it was an issue, somebody claimed there was an issue, we should have waited on a setback. That was already addressed, it was actually in our favor. And I am not a proponent of solar in Calverton, there's a lot. And these projects were already in the work, they were approved by the last supervisor, they were worked on. So I think that, we are getting a lot of people indicating that there's a lot of solars, and they don't want to be known as Solar City. I understand that, but our responsibility is to ensure that if an application is in, and the thousands of dollars paid, and it's in process, that we can't pull it. Legally, we can't. We're gonna get sued under Article 78, and rightfully so. So it is what it is. I think the state did a pretty good job. All the environmental concerns have been addressed. Anybody could have weighed in on the application at any time, all council members, the attorney. We did weigh in throughout it. We've spoken to you, and the attorneys asked, so I think we're,
There's less to speak about when the state requirements are more stringent than ours.
isn't that, yeah,
So recommendations to follow the state.
yeah. So Catherine, you have any other questions?
I don't have questions. None of that, I disagree.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Oh, you're welcome. If you have any other questions,
And
let me know.
just know, I'm a little aggressive when it comes to a pilot program. I did it with Nextera. I didn't give up, so be mindful of that. I'm making that public.
Okay, thanks. We got that to look
Okay.
forward to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Okay. Anyone else want to add? All right, I think we're going to come up with, David, can you come forward for resolutions? We're going to move on to resolutions.
Okay, if everybody's ready?
All right, does anyone have any questions on the resolutions? No? Okay, and throughout the resolutions, the board can speak. We
Sure.
need to get Frank in.
Yep, Frank's behind you.
Oh,
Welcome back. How are you?
welcome back.
It was nice
Did you have
outside.
lunch?
No, got a
You
little
gotta have lunch
tan,
and
though.
dinner by the time we brought you back. Okay.
Okay.
Devin, did you want to make a statement?
Yeah, so if anybody, as the supervisor mentioned, if any of the board has a question or has any comments, certainly feel
Wants to
free to stop
discuss?
me along the way. We're happy to pause for any sort of discussion.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
Resolution number 1 appoints
Thank you.
a call-in recreation aide to the Recreation Department. Resolution number 2 authorizes the supervisor to issue a letter to the Suffolk County Department of Health Services allowing the use of Pine Barrens credits originated from property located in Riverhead, Aspen Creek Estates Limited and Kaywood Properties Limited. Resolution number 3 amends Resolution 2021-341 and consents to 3.5 Pine Barrens credits that originated from Riverhead to be used for increased sanitary density in the town of Islip. Resolution number 4 awards bid for well and pump testing, evaluation, reporting, and information management. Resolution number 5 awards rebid for disposal of town-generated construction and demolition material. Resolution number 6, resolution to authorize the waiver and refund of fees to Riverhead Free Library. Resolution number 7, capital project number 72105, budget transfer. Resolution number 8, capital project number 71909, budget transfer. Resolution number 9, awards bid for truck parts. Resolution number 10, awards bid for Ford Automotive Parts. Resolution 11, awards bid for automotive parts. Resolution number 12, ratifies and accepts the resignation of a part-time police officer. Number 13, appoints seasonal beach attendant to the Recreation Department. Resolution number 14, amends Special Event Chapter 255, Resolution 2021-396. Number 15, authorizes sewer district employees to attend seminar. Number 16, reappoints a member to the Senior Citizen Advisory Council. And number 17, approves two police department employees to attend a training course. And that's it. It's a short list of resolutions
Wow.
this week.
It sure is. Any questions on the resolutions? Anyone want to add any statements?
I just would like to mention that it would be my intention at the next town board meeting to bring off the floor Resolution 2021-476, approve special event Chapter 255 application for Bob Feller Active Valor Foundation. So it will be my intention the next meeting. Just so that-
Okay,
I would
and
be in favor.
so if you'll make sure it's on the agenda,
Yes.
Diane, and it's raised. All right, I think we're done with resolutions.
Yeah, so that's it for the town board resolutions, Supervisor, if we're finished with those, unless somebody has any other comments. But Dawn is going to come here and just present a CDA resolution for you guys.
It's not actually a town board.
Oh, it is? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I misstated.
Okay. So we need to add that to the resolutions.
Yes, okay. It's in,
That-
it is in Minitrack. It is, I apologize for the
That's okay.
lateness of it, it's just a support resolution, so it's a sense of the board. It has no impact on anything for the town, but it's for the Long Island Science Center's application for New York Main Street funds. So they're applying for that next week, so it is time sensitive. We need to put it on for the next meeting. It is in Minitrack. It basically just says you support their application for renovation of their building to expand the Science Center at 111 East Main Street.
Being adjacent to our future town square, it's important. They succeed, we
Correct.
succeed, we all work together.
Yes, 100% correct. We're working nicely with the Science Center, so.
Yes,
Thanks.
great partnership.
And then Supervisor, did you want to have Anne Marie just make some additional comments on resolution number 15, the sewer district employees going to the seminar?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, and Maria, and I know we had conversations the
Right.
last few days on this matter.
Right.
And I think it's a little house cleaning when
Sure.
someone goes to training on funds, town
Right.
taxpayers' funds.
So, quick recap, quite some time ago, the town board was very unified in that if we had a newly hired employee and we were paying, some of the training is costly, significant, $3,000, $5,000, that if the new employee had left within a 2-year period, we could collect those fees for the classes back from the employee. And the supervisor, I know the last time training resolutions came up, there was a lot of back and forth, if you recall, and I think Bob was directed to change resolutions, and I wasn't, Bob and I had a quick conversation about it, and so the town supervisor has made 2 points that she would like the rest of the town board to approve, consider and approve, and require me to amend the resolutions and kind of set the standards moving forward. The first, which actually I'll tell you legally, and I don't want to really bore anyone, but legally, the supervisor truly is on point, and it probably, should have been in every training resolution in the past. And I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from the law, and these are from State Controller opinions. A town may not pay the tuition or other expenses of an employee in attending a course or instruction to enable him to attain a sanitary engineer's license so that he may qualify for a civil service exam. A municipal corporation may not pay fees, schooling, room or board or transportation of one of its employees to prepare him for a higher position. A county may not pay the tuition and accompanying expenses for an unauthorized course in criminal defense taken by an assistant public defender. The law goes, I just took excerpts on and on this. So the supervisor, I wholly support you bringing that to my attention. And what I'm proposing, for instance, in this resolution is to add, and that such course is related to and in furtherance of said employee's current position. I think that's simple, to the point. I'm hoping the town board can agree, just simple language. The second point that the supervisor raised, and I believe it was the issue she raised with the town attorney last go-around of training resolutions last year, is that she desired to have the, quote, payback for the class apply even to not just newly hired town employees, but town employees. So what I would say to that is, I think, or I believe, and I don't want to speak in place of the town board, that the town board sees a benefit of employees being educated in their job that they're currently doing, and it helps them do their job better. With respect to employees that have been working here for years, yes, it is a benefit. So I would say to the supervisor, and some of our employees in those positions who have and are required to have particular certifications, I would say, if you wanted to add language regarding employees that have been employed for more than 2 years, that you limit the payback to if they leave within 1 year. Why? The employees that are required to maintain their certifications for their position, it's a tough payback because they're doing their job. So, I don't know what the thought or the feedback for the town board is. I could add in a provision that says, or employee leaves town service within 1 year from the date of the training described above.
1 year, when you're talking about, an employee takes a $10,000 training, and now they become more marketable, and they can go seek employment elsewhere. And so they have a year, and within a year, they'll start looking for a job within a year, and now we're back to the $10,000. We're looking at ensuring that if we're going to certify our employees and make them be more marketable, that we're going to make sure that they just now don't get the certification and start looking for a job. And so that was the full purpose of this, is to secure the taxpayers' money. Because
But-
we're not just gonna be a mill where everybody go to Riverhead, they'll pay $10,000, and within a year, you'll get this certification, you can leave. So we're trying to protect the taxpayers' money, and if the employee takes on that responsibility to get a certification and get certain training, especially for promotion, they owe us something back.
Yeah, but I'm providing you that topic in amending the resolution to include that language. This is not for a different job. The law says a municipality may only pay for the training for the position the employee is in.
Correct.
A municipality may not spend money, so I can go out and get a different job,
And that's what we
whether
wanna
it's within
secure.
the town or anywhere else. You're not permitted to spend municipal money that way, so I think you have that covered in that language.
Okay.
I'm just, I'll admit, there are certain positions in the town, and I don't know them all, and I do know, though, there are some that they have to have annual certifications. So even if an employee is in his 30th year, ready to retire, he's got to take the course because
Sure.
he's working his last year. So I think to make it a 2-year hurdle is not realistic. So I'll do whatever the town board
I could
wants.
agree with a year. We'll do a year, but you
Okay.
also have to consider the employees that are working to be promoted, and we send them to training.
You're not paying for promotional training. That's the additional language that you were spot on, I included.
Okay.
So I'll make both those changes, and we'll kind of
That's
make
perfect.
our
Are you in
format moving
agreement?
forward.
Yes, yeah, I
Catherine?
think that's great.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne Marie. A lot of research lately, huh? Keeping you busy. Any other questions, any comments? Ms. Mack, did you want to mention, you're just here to visit us?
Not really.
Okay, so you're here to visit us, welcome. It's good to see you. So I think that's it. I just want to remind everyone, today is Alive at 25, fireworks at 9:15. We expect a nice crowd down there, and I look forward, I'm going to be there all night. And hopefully our council members will join us. Should we make a statement on Hubbard?
The weather's going to be beautiful tonight, so
Yeah.
it should be
Should we
a
make a
great night for it.
Should we make a statement on Hubbard? Okay, we'll wait on that at the next board meeting. All right, everyone, please be safe. Again, seniors, call out senior hotline. It's been very active lately, and we like activity in our office to work with our seniors. And thank you, everyone. This is gonna conclude our work session for today, and in a moment, I'm gonna ask you to, for a motion to go into executive session. And when we discuss the following topics: contractual, Dan Barker Esquire, matter surrounding an agreement with,
Co-location?
co-location, okay? And that's gonna be Kasakevich and Mancini, and then we're gonna have matters surrounding potential sale of real property, and that's gonna be Kasakevich, and then we're gonna go into the legal, and that's gonna concern matters surrounding pending litigation entitled Carr McVeigh LLC versus the Zoning Board of Appeals et al., Index N 09-0122, and that's gonna be Kasakevich also, and then we're gonna be discussing personnel matters, and we just have one personnel matter, and matters surrounding pending litigation entitled, hiring of an employee, and then two of them, actually. Two matters surrounding the hiring of employees. And can I have a first and a second to go into executive session, please?
I'll make that first motion.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? So move, and be safe.